The Morrison government's COVID app, as I said, has identified just 17 coronavirus cases just 12 months after it was launched. Despite being downloaded more than 7 million times, the $6 million app, $6 million to make it and $60 million to then promote it, has only helped track close to 80 contacts of positive corona cases. To discuss this and more, from Melbourne, I'm joined now by the Director of Policy at the Institute for Public Affairs, Gideon Rozner, and also in Melbourne, Sky News contributor and former Communications Minister, Labor power broker, Stephen Conroy. I'll start with you if I can, Stephen Conroy. You've been in the communications space, 17 odd COVID cases, 80 close contacts, all for a princely sum of $66 million. It's extraordinary.
Well, look, heads have already rolled. I mean, if you look at the redistribution today, the reshuffle, sorry, you're seeing the architect of that policy has been moved off. And so it's pretty hard to make the case going forward now. But this is a shambles, an embarrassment. An entire national advertising campaign which said download it. And I think sunscreen was the word the Prime Minister used. It's a sunscreen to protect us. And it is just an embarrassing shambles.
This is the problem, isn't it, Gideon? Because, JobKeeper went today. A lot of people have taken up the offer of the cheap flights to get to Queensland. It was supposed to be a great fillip for the tourism industry. We've now got Brisbane in lockdown. We're days out from the Easter weekend. It's pretty tough if you're in the tourism game.
Look, it's extremely tough, Peter. And look, as always, as with the announcement of every lockdown, I feel for so many small businesses in Queensland that will be hit hard by this, not least of all in the tourism sector. This is the time when they were going to make up the gains that were lost like last time. And yet again, they've been kicked in the teeth. But on the app, I did a few calculations. And on the cost of making the app alone, never mind the $60 million to promote it, that's $400,000 per contact found from this harebrained app. Now, it was a disgrace that this was even proposed. A government surveillance app that could track your movements was never something that should have happened in a free society. And this just goes to show that we should never take the government seriously when it talks about innovation policy or startup grants or anything else, because the government cannot manage even simple rudimentary things like this. It can't be trusted with innovation policy. The only innovation policy that a government should pursue is getting out of the way.
It's $100,000 a month on top of all of that spending. I've got to add that as well. Let's talk nuclear power, because a majority of Labor and Greens voters think nuclear power should be considered as part of a low emissions future. According to a new poll survey there by the Menzies Research Centre, 50%, they say, of Labor voters and 52% of Greens voters think nuclear power should be on the table. 72% of Liberals, well, they're smart. 79% of the National Party types as well. Stephen Conroy, surprised there or not?
Look, I am surprised by that. I'm a little suspicious, given it was run by the Menzies Institute, so I don't take it at absolute face value. But I thought it was a really interesting result to find so many people who wanted to put it into the mix. I think nuclear power, the debate has absolutely moved along over the last few years. There are new generations of nuclear power stations and an ability to use it in a different way. But I don't see the Labor Party signing up to this anytime soon. And the overwhelming majority of delegates at conference, I think, would be opposed to it if it was proposed. So I think it would still stay a very significant political issue. And Scott Morrison's not someone who wants to die in a ditch on these ideological issues. He is just as likely to say, no, if I can't get consensus, I'm not going to pursue it. He won't show any leadership on things like that.
I think it's important, though, to have the conversation. I think having the conversation is just exactly where we should start. People shouldn't be scared of a nuclear power reactor coming to a suburb near them. But I think having the conversation is part of being a grown-up country if we are serious about the broader conversations about zero emissions. Although I have to say, Gideon, Matt Kean, he's basically given Anthony Albanese an early Christmas present back here in March, putting Malcolm Turnbull out there as the chief advocate on net zero emissions and putting him as a counterweight in everyday sort of policy debates with Angus Taylor at a federal level. What on earth is Kean trying to do?
Well, look, to be fair to Matt KEAN, I mean, if you were going to go to anybody as an authority on how to run a politically acceptable and good energy policy, you'd pick Malcolm Turnbull, wouldn't you? The guy who imploded leadership-wise on 2 separate occasions due to energy policy. Look, forgetting about what this board is supposed to do, which I haven't been able to quite figure out, you're right, it will be a perennial distraction to the Morrison government, but also the optics for the Berejiklian government are just awful. Here is Malcolm Turnbull's factional protege appointing him to what I presume is a publicly subsidised, taxpayer-funded position to sit around with other similarly well-heeled people, I'd imagine, to talk about how to fling the government's, other people's money at windmills and solar panels. I think it's an awful look for Gladys Berejiklian.
Look, Peter, if I could jump in there, I think it's extraordinary. I personally want to propose Matt KEAN for honorary life membership of the Labor Party. What that appointment will do...
It's too left-wing for the Labor Party. Will cause every Liberal in one of those seats like Malcolm Turnbull used to be a member for and put them in danger. The independents that will get up using Malcolm Turnbull's profile in Liberal Party seats will be extraordinary. This is a terrible stab in the back of the Prime Minister. I can't believe that he's not going to pick up the phone to Gladys and says, "Get serious, you can't do this."
You're right, it gives him a platform, doesn't it, Gideon, in all of those electoral fights. He's not just a former disgruntled PM. He's there as a government advocate out of New South Wales. It gives him standing.
It will, and it'll be a perennial dialogue quote. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.